Hello, and welcome to Alchemy Mine. Today's episode is on the iconic alchemical symbol, the pyramid. I will touch briefly on some concepts that overlap with the triangle, but I do plan to have a dedicated episode for it. There is certainly plenty of material. So, the concept of the pyramid, of course as a physical entity, but more importantly, as a concept, as a symbol. The word comes from the Greek pyramis, which was a vaguely pyramidal-shaped bread. This may seem a bit modest in origin, but let's look at that. Bread nourishes us and is a regular basic foodstuff. And as we look further at what the pyramid represents, keep in mind its connection to the humble, daily staple that is bread, its ubiquity. Mountain rising out of the water, the first land rising up out of the primordial waters, existence itself, an artificial cave, a refuge, the womb, a portal between worlds. With its sloped sides, the sun shining down upon us through the clouds, ascension, two pyramids, creation sign, inspiration coming from heaven, chalice, water. As above, so below, the spiritual process of refinement and then expansion, cycles, heaven and earth, solidity, inspiration, aspiration, resurrection, regeneration. Jung used the square as a representation of an individual, and each side would be a length analogous to the strength or weakness of a given direction or element. The fifth element, ether, quintessence, or love, is the peak that one is able to rise to when in balance. When one is actualized, individualized, and balanced within their differentiation. So you are the square base, and when you're squared away, you can begin to rise, and as you do, you are coalescing to a point, to a singularity. Further along those lines, and very importantly in spiritual alchemy, upward is inward, looking within the self or self-examination. The guru is at the top of the mountain, right? You have to climb the mountain to meet the enlightened figure at the top. Well, that is at the center of you. It is the Buddha self within each of us, or the Tao, or the spark of divinity that is our guide. Christ is within you. And so we see that the point at the top of the pyramid is God, or love, unity consciousness, the fifth element, the all that is within the all. That is at the center of ourself, or at the top of the mountain, what we are getting closer to as we progress, or ascend in our consciousness, our spiritual path. The more actualized one is, the closer to that type of self we become. Climbing the mountain is the process of self-actualization. So when we climb the mountain or go within for self-discovery, we peer amid, we look within, and from the vantage of the top, or center, we can see everything from the best possible perspective to get the best understanding of the world and of ourselves. You can see a long way when you're at the top of a mountain. The same is true in this analogy. You have a clear view. There are entire programs about the Great Pyramid of Giza, so I'll only say a few things. It is firstly a wholly different sort of structure than are the later pyramids. It contains no writing and was certainly not a tomb. It was also certainly not built by Khufu. The civilization that constructed it had a much more complex understanding of mathematics than those who built the later pyramids. Its accuracy and precision of construction is beyond spectacular by even today's standards. I recommend doing further research into this topic. All in all, you're just another brick in the wall, or in this case, pyramid. The pyramid is a symbol of any sort of idea or institution, and each of us are bricks within each we ascribe or subscribe to. So, I am a brick in the pyramid of the country I live in. I am a brick in the pyramid of the political party I vote for, and this applies to every belief or idea that I hold and think and operate as though it were true, or anything I devote my time and attention to. My standing within each of these has me further towards the top or lower towards the bottom, but my participation at all makes me a part of it. And the solidity of my adherence to these as a concept, as something that exists and is true, translates to the strength of me as a brick, holding up the structure. The more people adhere to a given thought form, the larger and more solid its structure. The world is made of thoughts in this way. We have concepts and institutions that are made of nothing really, just the idea that they're real. And so, through this pyramidal process, nothingness, air, the diaphanous, is turned into concrete reality. Our thought forms create our reality, not in a metaphorical or abstract way, but in a real, literal, concrete way. And this is a huge concept within alchemy. It's not just a metaphor that your thoughts create your reality. It is literal. Things that seem to be carved out of stone and strong to the point of being immutable exist only because people believe they do. Look at any extinct religion. During the height of whatever civilization it's from, it was truth as solid as the sun and the moon. And what is it now? A wisp. So too are the thought forms and institutions we hold in the highest regard. They are as light as air, and this goes for concepts as well. If you'd like a real-world example, look at how the rifts between certain branches of Christianity have softened in the last 500 years. There was a time when a Catholic would fight, die, and kill for the concept of transubstantiation. but we don't even talk about it anymore. Catholics are pretty much lumped in with Protestants. Mormons, too, are included. Had they existed in the medieval period, they would have been seen as heretics. But as the world changes, these things that were absolute chasms are now not even a thought. Those differences, which launched 1,000 warships and obliterated millions of lives, are now just nothing. What concepts, what institutions are we currently subject to, or do we adhere to with fervent ferocity that will be a wisp of a breeze in 100 years? What about in 1,000 years? Now, this doesn't mean that things don't matter. At the gross level, they matter completely, but it's important to realize their transience. In alchemy, these connected but opposite viewpoints are called microcosm and macrocosm. The micro, or below in the saying as above, so below, is the 5-foot view on the ground. These things are real and matter in the context to those who live and breathe a given thought form each day. But the macro, the above, is the 10,000-foot view, where while yes, the micro is all true, a very different context and understanding arises. Take all the suffering we see that is happening all around the world. At the micro level, it is horrifying that these things occur at all. At the macro level, it can be understood that we humans are young in our consciousness. We are still learning and growing, and there is a sense of beauty within that, in that struggle. So, to hold both micro and macro at the same instant is to feel the plight of those who are suffering and work to alleviate that suffering, but to not become overwhelmed by it, because it does exist within the context of the trajectory of our development. We are right on track as a species, with moving from a lower to a higher level of consciousness. You can't skip ahead. You have to go through and learn all the hard lessons. This progress is achieved because it is hard won. This is true for a species, a culture, and an individual. And remember that bread? Just like it, our institutions nourish us and keep us alive. However, also keep in mind that while bread does do these things, it's not the most nutritious food. It is not a superfood. It can provide survival, but does it provide more? Think about this parallel. The daily thought forms that define your world may provide survival, but is there something more? Something different? That would be a kale smoothie in this analogy. It's something to consider. Think about how these concepts apply to your life. Keep in mind, some of the largest, most powerful thought pyramids in existence are the ones we don't even realize we participate in. There are ideas that would be considered absolutely insane, if we could only see that we believe them in the first place. However, they are so ubiquitous that we don't even realize they are there. They are so large, it is like the sky. It has become the background that we don't take any notice to. Another consideration is that while a thought form pyramid can arise from the base, it can also be thought to arise from the point. It may be difficult to imagine, but in a sense, both happen simultaneously. It is one way from a certain perspective and the opposite from another. And like a pyramid growing from a point, your attention, the point of your focus or awareness, is the tip of a pyramid. And the more you focus on something, the more it becomes the center of your reality. Or rather, reality starts to form all around that focal point, as everything is filtered through the lens of your attention. And this all pertains to an aspect of the magnum opus, or the great work. Think about your beliefs. Do you choose to believe them with care and intention? Or have you picked them up without even knowing what you believe or why you believe it? How tightly do you cling to ideas that would be irrelevant to, say, an alien life form? We have ideas and concepts that shape our very reality, that are held in the highest regard, that are even considered sacred to us, that in 100 years or less will be moot. So think about your ideas, your thought form constructs, and frameworks that create your reality, and understand they are not, as the Great Pyramid is, made of stone. And when you look at some other person who is your ideological enemy, are they not in the same boat? The ideas they would fight for, die for, and maybe even kill for, are they made of anything beyond thin air? How much thought and understanding is actually put into the ideas that divide this world? Are these people conscious of what they believe and why? Or are they just getting carried along by the will of others? And so, if you can break through this veil of understanding, how should you treat people who have yet to do so? When at times you knew less than you know now, how did you want to be treated by those with further understanding? Do you extend that compassion and patience to those who are still deeply confused and entangled within the world, with no idea of its underlying functioning? Those who are so deeply wrapped up in the fabrics of their moot, insubstantial, and absurd constructs? I hope that you will treat them with the patience of a loving parent to a child. Or that at least you strive to. It isn't always easy. And so we saw what this great and powerful symbol is truly about. And like the humble bread from whence it gains its name, each individual is also great and truly amazing within our spiritual path towards actualization. Alchemy is a way of thinking. It is a way of looking at reality such that you can understand it and your place within it. It is a way of making your life workable so that you can solve the challenges you are presented with and shape your reality to how you want it to be. You too can become an alchemist, and there is is no problem too large for an alchemist to solve.